The thing is, I did not pick truth because I wanted to be honest. I picked it because everyone was watching. Two pizza boxes, one black card, and of course my husband thought it was only a game. I called him my practice husband before the laughter even knew where to land. By morning, the joke belonged to everyone except me. My name is Sloane Mercer. I was 34, and I worked as a senior brand strategist for boutique hotels, which meant I sold strangers the feeling of being remembered. The thing is, I liked being the person who knew how to make a room want what it was missing. Two tiny game pieces, one paper scorecard, and of course my husband already had my favourite token waiting at the board game cafe. Grant had chosen the brass fox for me before I reached the table. He always did that. The cafe smelled like cinnamon coffee, old cardboard, and the lemon cleaner they used on the tables after children's birthday bookings. Our group met there most Fridays before home game nights became easier. Back then, Grant and I had a ritual. We played one game, made one ridiculous bet, and whoever lost had to choose breakfast the next morning. That was real. I do not need to make it smaller. He used to slide notes into hotel menus when I had bad client weeks. Not long ones. Just small lines about how I had survived another lobby full of rich people pretending lamps mattered. I kept them in a drawer with old room keys and matchbooks from places I had made look romantic for other people. That Friday he asked if I wanted the fox or the silver train. He already knew the answer. His care arrived before my choice, neat and quiet. Once that made me feel known. Lately it made me feel scheduled. Marcy arrived late with wet hair and a smile that always made bad ideas look better lit. She asked if Grant had prepared the whole table again. I told her he liked structure. She said structure was lovely in hotels and dangerous in husbands. Grant heard enough to look up. He asked softly if something had changed between us. Not what was wrong. Not who had upset me. What had changed? I heard him asking why I could not be easier. I told him nothing had changed. I said work had been heavy and people were reading too much into my moods. He nodded, but his fingers stayed on the fox token for 1 second before he placed it beside my hand. Marcy texted me under the table after that. She said stable men needed emotional seasoning. I smiled before I could hide it. Grant saw the smile. Of course he did. He did not ask who had written to me. He only looked at the fox token, then at my phone, like one of those small things had moved and he was trying to decide which one mattered. Marcy's balcony was barely wide enough for two people, but she liked that. She said narrow spaces made conversations sharper. The candle on the little metal table smelled like coconut sunscreen, which made no sense in October, and traffic below us kept stopping at the same red light like the city had been paused for review. The thing is, I had gone there to vent. That was the clean version. 1 glass of white wine, 2 women leaning over a railing, and of course I told myself talking was not the same as damage. Marcy asked what Grant had done now. I said he had asked what changed. I said it with a soft little voice, mocking the way he had said it. Marcy laughed because she liked me best when I became cruel with good timing. She said Grant had practice life energy. She said he felt like the man a woman married before her real life got interesting. Then she said he was a practice husband. I told her not to be mean. Then I laughed. That was how certain words entered me. Not as a decision. As a laugh I could have stopped. Grant was not a bad husband. I need that said, even if I did not act like it then. He planned things because his childhood had been full of adults who forgot. He checked reservations because his mother used to cry in parking lots after plans failed. He kept receipts, saved numbers, and read instructions because disorder had never felt charming to him. But that meant our marriage came with notes. Dinner at 7. Anniversary dinner booked 3 weeks early. Hotel stay confirmed with a backup plan if the rooftop closed from rain. He called that care. I started calling it proof that he did not know how to want me without a calendar. At work, that irritation had somewhere prettier to stand. The hotel office smelled like espresso, paper, and the grapefruit hand cream Nina kept in her drawer. I was building a pitch for a boutique hotel brand called Lasting Tables, all candlelight and handwritten dessert cards. My job was to make planned feelings look spontaneous. That should have made me more forgiving of Grant. Instead, it made me better at describing what bored me. Theo Larkin leaned against the conference room wall while I reviewed the deck. He was not my closest friend, not exactly. He was a creative director from another account, charming in that public way where people forgave him for taking too much space. He said Grant seemed like the kind of man who labelled phone chargers. People laughed. I laughed too. Nina had come in with mock-ups and heard it. She did not laugh right away. She asked if Grant would find that funny. I said Grant could survive a joke. Of course, I said it like Nina was the fragile one. Theo asked if Grant was coming to Jules's game night on Saturday. I said yes, because Grant never missed anything that looked like a tradition. Theo said we should play truth or dare after the serious games, because married people got interesting when rules got loose. Marcy took that idea into the group chat by lunch. She said we needed one messy round after all the little wooden pieces and score pads. Theo agreed. Jules sent a laughing sticker. Nina wrote that it should stay harmless. Harmless. That word always arrived right before people stopped being honest about what they wanted. In the group chat, Marcy wrote that someone should ask me what I really thought about marriage. Theo asked if I would answer. I typed that if truth came up, I knew exactly what I was saying. 3 dots from Nina appeared, then vanished. That should have made me careful. Instead, I put my phone face down and went back to the hotel pitch. The slide on my screen said guests remember what feels personal. I remember thinking that was good copy. That night at home, Grant had dinner under foil because I had said I would be late. I had not been late. I had sat in the parking garage after work reading the group chat again, my engine off, my hands cold around my phone. He was at the small kitchen table with his laptop closed. The room smelled like lemon chicken and the orange tea he drank when he was trying not to ask too much. He said Nina had seemed strange when he saw her at the bakery that morning. He said she mentioned I had been joking about him at work. He asked, specific and calm, why I had told people he planned romance like a hotel itinerary. One named incident. One real question. I heard supervision. I heard him taking my words out of a room where they had been funny and placing them on our table like evidence. I told him everyone joked about marriage. I said he made things heavy. I said if he wanted me to stop teasing him, maybe he should stop making every feeling come with a booking reference. He did not answer fast enough. That pause made me sharper. Grant said sometimes he wished I would tell him I was hurt before I turned it into a performance. What he meant was that he wanted a door. What I heard was that he wanted to control the stage. I told him he was proving my point. I said he could make even a joke feel like a meeting. After that, he took the foil off his plate and did not offer to warm mine. It was small. Grant's consequences always were. He washed 1 fork, 1 plate, 1 glass. Mine stayed beside the sink. The next morning, Marcy asked if he was sulking. I told her he was doing his quiet, wounded thing. Theo reacted with a joke in the chat. Nina did not react at all. By Saturday afternoon, the phrase practice husband was sitting in my head like a card I had already chosen. Jules's apartment smelled like pizza boxes, cider, and the dusty cardboard smell of too many board games stacked under one coffee table. He lived on the 4th floor of an old brick building with radiators that clicked during silence, which meant there was never complete silence unless the whole room had earned it. The thing is, game night had never been dangerous before. 2 bowls of chips, 1 crowded sofa, and of course I told myself everyone knew how to laugh. That was the lie people carry into rooms where they want permission. Grant and I arrived together. He held the elevator door for Nina and carried the cider because Jules had texted that the lift might stick. He wore the green sweater I had once said made him look warm. He looked like the kind of man people trusted near hot pans and fragile glasses. That annoyed me before he did anything wrong. Marcy was already there, barefoot on the rug, pouring drinks too high in plastic cups. Theo sat on the arm of the sofa like the seat had been waiting for him. Jules had his phone out, recording short clips of the table because he liked making little recap videos of our nights. Nina sat cross-legged near the window, quieter than usual. We played 2 normal games first. Grant won the first by counting quietly and never looking proud. Theo said that was exactly Grant's brand. Marcy laughed. I laughed because it was easier to laugh than admit I hated how good Grant was at being steady. Nina said Grant was always good with rules. I said he should be, since he treated life like one long instruction booklet. The room laughed unevenly. Grant smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. That half-smile fed something ugly in me. If he would not fight, I could keep pretending he was not being hurt. After midnight, Theo said we needed one round of truth or dare before everyone became responsible adults. Jules groaned but pulled out a party deck from the shelf. The cards were black with white letters, already bent at the corners from earlier nights. Truth or dare began stupid. Marcy admitted she had once lied about hating karaoke. Theo dared Jules to text his upstairs neighbour about the radiator noise. Nina chose dare and had to eat a spoonful of cold sauce from the pizza box. We laughed then. Clean laughter. The kind that still had an exit. Then the deck came to me. The black card sat in my palm. It was warm from someone else's hand. I did not need to choose truth. I could have chosen dare. I could have made a face, eaten sauce, sent a message, anything small and silly. Instead, I said truth before anyone asked. Marcy looked at me quickly. Theo smiled. Nina's shoulders tightened. Grant reached for his cup and then did not drink. Theo leaned forward and asked what my most honest thought about marriage was. That was the setup. Not an accident. Not fate. A small room full of people watched my face, and I liked the attention too much to step away from it. I said my most honest thought was that Grant was my practice husband. The room did not understand at first. That is the part people forget. Cruel lines sometimes need a second to find the wound. Theo laughed first. Marcy followed high and quick, then stopped when she saw Grant's face. Jules's phone was still in his hand, tilted toward the coffee table. Nina looked at me as if she had heard something fall but could not see where it landed. Grant did not speak, so I made it worse. I said Grant was the safe version, the one you marry before your real life starts. I said he had taught me what stability looked like, which was useful, but no one should confuse useful with unforgettable. Useful. I used that word because I knew exactly where it would land. Grant looked at the black card in my hand. Not at Theo. Not at Marcy. Not even at me. His eyes went to the card, then to the floor, where another truth card had slipped under the edge of the coffee table. He bent down slowly and picked it up. The room had become too clear. The cider smell. The radiator clicking. One card between his fingers. One phone still recording. No clean exit. Grant placed the black truth card back on top of the deck. He straightened the stack with his thumb, aligning the corners that had been bent by too many hands. That was when the door opened inside me. For a few seconds, I saw him as he was, not as the role I had written for him. He was not trying to shame me. He was not making himself the victim. He was doing what he always did when a room became messy. He was restoring order to something small because the larger thing had already been damaged. My husband had just been demoted in front of our friends, and his first instinct was to put the card back where it belonged. The thought was plain enough to hurt. Then Theo shifted on the sofa and smiled like I had made the night interesting. Marcy took a long drink. The room waited for me to decide whether this was still a joke. I closed the door. I told myself everyone was finally seeing the truth I had been carrying alone. Grant asked if we could talk in the kitchen. Quiet debrief. No raised voice. The quiet was the point. In Jules's narrow kitchen near the sink full of plastic cups, he asked if I had meant to make the room laugh at him. I said the room only laughed because it was true. He looked at me for a long second. He asked if practice husband was something I had thought before tonight. I told him not to pretend the phrase mattered more than the feeling behind it. I said he cared about wording because wording was easier than desire. What he meant was that he wanted to know if I had planned to hurt him. What I heard was that he wanted to edit my honesty. Back in the living room, Jules had lowered his phone. Nina was cleaning a table that did not need cleaning. Marcy would not look directly at Grant. Theo asked if everyone wanted another round, but his voice had lost some of its shine. No one answered. The game continued for 6 more minutes because people do strange things when they do not know how to end a room. Then Grant put on his coat. He thanked Jules for hosting. He told Nina good night. He did not look at me while he opened the door. I stayed because leaving with him would have looked like admitting something. The black truth card remained on the table after the deck was packed away. Jules picked it up, looked at it, and slid it into the side pocket of the game box. His phone screen was dark, but everyone knew what it had already seen. The apartment was too neat the next morning. That was how I knew Grant had been awake before me. The blankets were folded on the sofa, the dishes were dried, and the kitchen smelled like coffee I had not been offered. Of course, I told myself he was punishing me by being orderly. 1 mug, 1 clean counter, no warmth. Grant was standing near the window in his running clothes, but his shoes were still by the door. He had not gone out. He had only dressed for leaving. I asked if he was planning to make one game answer into a full silent treatment. He said it had not been one answer. He said it had been months of turning him into the punchline and then acting surprised when he heard the joke. Naming the pattern, not the card, not the room, the accumulation. He said I had chosen truth before anyone asked me. He said Nina had told him about the group chat because she thought he should know the line had not appeared from nowhere. Nina. That landed worse than I expected. I said Nina loved feeling morally necessary. I said she was always looking for a chance to be the reasonable woman in the room. Grant said Nina had looked sad, not reasonable. That answer left me nowhere elegant to stand. He asked if I had typed in the chat that I knew exactly what I was saying if truth came up. His voice stayed flat, too careful. He was holding the question like glass. I told him group chats were not legal transcripts. The word legal came out before I knew why I had chosen it. Grant noticed. His eyes moved to me, then away. He said he was asking his wife a question, not building a transcript. What he meant was that he still wanted one honest answer. What I heard was that he had started keeping score. So I changed tactic. Fake empathy looks generous from a distance. I softened my voice and said I understood that the words had landed badly. I said I had felt invisible for a long time. I said he planned our life so carefully that sometimes I could not tell the difference between being loved and being managed. That was not false. That was why it worked on me first. Grant sat at the table. He said he knew he planned too much. He said he used plans when he did not know how to say the larger thing. He said he had wanted to be safe for me, not small. Simply sad, not strategic, not sharp. I heard an excuse. I told him safety was not enough for a whole marriage. He nodded once. Not agreement. Storage. Elise came by after lunch. Grant had not asked her to, or he said he had not, which I did not believe. She stood in the hallway with a paper bag of groceries and a face that looked too much like his when she decided not to waste words. Elise said Nina had called her because she was worried. I said everyone was building a committee around a party game. Elise said nobody needed a committee when there was a video. The word video made the apartment smaller. Jules had sent Grant the clip that morning. Not to punish me, Elise said. To stop people from pretending they remembered it differently. I said Jules recorded everything. Elise said recording everything was not the same as making me say what I said. 2 grocery bags. 1 hallway. No soft landing. Elise told me that calling Grant practice husband was not humour. She said it was a public demotion. She said I had taken the man who knew my coffee, my deadlines, and my worst weeks, and reduced him to a rehearsal in front of people who ate pizza off paper plates. I told her she had always wanted a reason to dislike me. That was not true. She had tried for years to like me in the exact places where I made it difficult. Elise looked at Grant then. He was still at the table, his hands folded around a mug he had not lifted. She asked if he wanted to come with her for a few hours. He said not yet. Not yet. 2 words. The room heard them before I did. After Elise left, I found the black truth card on the hallway table. I stared at it for too long. Jules must have given it back to Grant. Or Nina. Or maybe Grant had taken it himself before leaving the apartment. The card sat beside the key bowl, plain and dark. A party object placed where bills and spare change belonged. I told myself it was melodrama. Grant came out of the bedroom with an envelope, the plain cream kind we used for tax receipts. He picked up the card and slid it inside. He did not seal it. He only placed the envelope in the top drawer of the console table. Silent decision marker. I called it tidying again, but he did not look like a man tidying. That evening, I texted Marcy that everyone had become impossible. She answered 4 hours later with a short message saying things sounded tense. Theo sent a meme in the group chat, but not to me directly. Nina did not answer when I asked if she had really called Elise. Jules wrote that he did not want to get involved. The thing is, they were already involved. They just did not want to stand close to the part that smelled like smoke. Grant slept in the guest room. Before closing the door, he asked if there was anything I wanted to say without an audience, one last private door. I said he was being theatrical. He closed the door quietly. Something inside the walls shifted that night. Not a crash, not a fight. Just the sound of one person realizing the house no longer needed to pretend both people were still trying. The second gathering was at Jules' apartment again, which was my first mistake and also the point. Nobody called it game night. Jules said it was just dinner, a smaller thing, no party deck, no pressure. That made it sound safe. The thing is, rooms do not forget because you change the label. I went because not going would have looked like guilt. Of course I called it maturity. 1 bottle of wine, 2 unanswered texts, and 1 husband who arrived separately. Grant came in with Elise. That was new. He had not told me. He wore a dark jacket and no expression I could use. He said hello to Jules, then Nina, then Marcy. He did not avoid me. That would have been easier. He treated me like a fact on the furniture list. Marcy hugged me, but her arms were quick. She smelled like vanilla perfume and caution. Theo stood near the window with a drink, joking with Jules in a lower voice than usual. Nina was in the kitchen, cutting lemons into uneven wedges. She used to come straight to me at parties. That night she stayed beside the sink. Dinner was too careful. Everyone spoke about work, weather, a new restaurant none of us had tried. Grant answered when spoken to. He did not perform injury. He did not rescue me from awkwardness either. That made me louder. Theo said someone should pick music. I said Jules should, because his taste was less depressing than Grant's dinner playlists. No one laughed quickly. Marcy gave a small sound, then looked at Nina. Grant set his glass down. He asked if we could leave now and discuss this privately. He said the room had already remembered enough, and I did not need to give it more. Final and clean. 1 offer. Not repeated. The thing is, that should have sounded like mercy. Instead, it sounded like control wearing a nice coat. I told him he did not get to decide when I spoke. I said he had spent years turning our marriage into a schedule and then acting hurt when I wanted one unscheduled feeling. I said he made our marriage feel planned instead of desired. That was true. Grant did not deny it. He only said he had failed there. He said he had confused care with proof and left too many feelings inside plans. Then he said the truth of that did not make it right for me to make him a joke in front of our friends. The room went still in pieces. Nina stopped cutting lemons. Jules looked at the floor. Marcy drank from a glass that was already empty. Theo's face changed, not into guilt, but calculation. I hated that Grant had accepted the one true thing because it took away the easy fight. So I gave the room the line again. I said he was proving my point. I said no real husband needed a private room to survive one honest answer. Then I said Grant had been my practice husband. And maybe the only reason everyone was upset was that I had finally named it. This time nobody laughed. That was the part I had not prepared for. Public cruelty needs an audience willing to pretend it is wit. Without laughter, the words come back with their plain clothes on. Grant looked at me, then at Theo, then at Marcy. He did not look broken. That angered me more than if he had. He looked organized. He said he would handle things properly from there. No one asked what that meant. Maybe everyone already knew enough not to ask. I told him he loved sounding noble. I told him quiet men always made women look loud because they were too scared to say what they wanted. Theo lifted his hands a little and said he thought this was just game night energy. He smiled after saying it, but nobody took the smile. Agenda B, though I did not call it that. Theo enjoyed heat until the room started asking who had lit the match. Marcy moved toward the hallway and checked her phone. I sent her a message from across the room. I asked her to tell me I was not crazy. She left it on read. The absence was one small grey line under my text, and it opened wider than the whole apartment. After that, people became busy. Nina wiped the counter. Jules collected plates that still had food on them. Elise stood near Grant, not touching him, but close enough that the room understood where she stood. Theo said he needed air and went to the balcony without inviting anyone. I went to the kitchen because I did not know where else to put my body. No one followed me. From the kitchen doorway, I watched Grant put on his coat. He thanked Jules for dinner. He told Nina he would follow up tomorrow. Follow up. Like a meeting. Like a file. Like something had already moved from feeling into process. I said from the kitchen that he was making a scene. He looked back at me once. He said I had made the scene and he was leaving the room that held it. Then he left before dessert. The radiator clicked. The plates cooled. Marcy stayed by the hallway for 3 more minutes, then said she had an early morning and left without looking into the kitchen. Theo came back from the balcony and asked Jules if rideshares were expensive from his street at that hour. Nobody asked if I was coming. The room had finally stopped laughing, and the quiet was worse than any answer Grant could have given me. The family lawyer's conference room smelled like printer toner, lemon water, and furniture polish. Grant sat across from me with Elise beside him. Nina was there too, not at the table, but near the wall with her hands around a paper cup she did not drink from. I had asked why she was there. Grant's lawyer said Nina had provided a written account and could clarify timing if needed. Ms. Adrienne Cole placed a folder in front of me. Her nails were short. Her voice was calm enough to make anger look childish. The document was titled Petition for Dissolution of Marriage with Temporary Financial Orders. The temporary orders hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. I read the title twice. Then I moved the folder slightly to the left because it was not centered with the edge of the table. That was my first response. Not crying, not shouting, centering paper. The folder included Jules's saved clip from game night, Nina's written account, and screenshots from the group chat. The message where I had typed that if truth came up, I knew exactly what I was saying sat on the page like it had always belonged there. The black truth card was listed too, sealed in a plain envelope Grant had brought. I said it had been a game. I said everyone had said things that night. I said people were acting like one bad joke was a whole marriage. Ms. Cole looked at the page, then at me. She said the concern was not the game. It was the documented pattern. Not cruel, not sympathetic, just true. Theo sent one message while I was still in the conference room. He said he did not want to be involved and that he thought everyone understood it was a joke. He did not send another. Afterward, Grant moved into Elise's guest room and used email for every practical detail. The joint account could not cover anything large without written agreement. Nina stopped inviting me to group nights, and Jules refused to delete the clip. Marcy never explained the read receipt, and after a week she stopped pretending she had been busy. At work, a hotel client recognized me from the story and asked another strategist to handle her account. The thing is, I thought choosing truth made me brave. Of course, I liked the clean shape of that word. Brave sounded better than staged, better than planned. better than needing a room to help me say something sharp. Grant had made our marriage feel scheduled, and that was real. I used that truth like a knife, and then acted surprised by the cut. The black truth card stayed inside the envelope on Grant's side of the conference table. I chose truth, and it left me with nothing I could explain.